Hello, everybody. We will give ourselves a minute or two for everybody to join. More and more people coming. I see very different names, guessing from different corners of the world. This is the beauty of online webinars. If we would be sitting in some city, big city, we would have probably people only from the city. Now I see people from different locations. Still 30 seconds and we're gonna start. Somebody is taking head up already. Hand up. What does it mean? Well, I think we're gonna start. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon in Europe. Good morning in the Americas. Good evening in Asia. Happy to have people from very different locations on this call. Thank you for joining us. I would like to welcome you on the second webinar of the series of webinars co-hosted by International Rivers and Minority Rights Group International. International Rivers is an organization that since 35 years is developing global network to protect rivers, and Minority Rights Group since 54 years we are working with and for ethnic, religious, and linguistic minorities all over the world. The title of today's webinar is Droughts and Floods. The climate crisis is a water crisis. During a webinar, we will virtually visit 4 different locations of the world to give you deeper look into examples of how water and water issues are influencing life of minorities and indigenous people. We have with us 4 speakers. Actually, we will have 5 speakers. We're gonna share with you video of one of our partners far away. So you will have 5 faces of experts here on the call. Thank you for being with us. We have Mayalmeet Lepcha, indigenous leader from India. Hello. Thanks for being with us. Can we hear you?
Hi, everyone.
Yes, we can. Perfect. We have Salman Hayrallah from Iraq.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. We have Claire Thomas, co-director of Minority Rights Group International.
Hello, everybody.
And we have Josh Clem, co-director of International Rivers.
Yeah, hi, everyone.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Anna Albot. I'm the media officer at MRG, and I want to thank you for spending your afternoon, morning, evening with us on such an important topic. For the people listening, as you can see, there is the chat with questions, answers. Please feel free in any point of our discussion to post your questions. I will make sure, I will do my best that we can include your questions at the end of our meeting. First, I will give voice to our speakers, then there will be the time for discussion. So we will first fly to India. Mayalmeet, the floor is yours.
Okay, once again, hello everyone. My name is Mayalmeet Lepcha. I work with 2 organizations in India, in my place. One is like Affected Citizen of India. This is an organization in Sikkim, the only organization who works against the rampant constructions of dam in our state. And other is like I'm a president of Sikkim Indigenous Tribal Association. So I work with the indigenous community, like Lepcha indigenous community. So like what I wanted to share from in this today's webinar is like in the state, small state like Sikkim is in Northeast India. It's a very tiny state where most of the people, even in India, doesn't know. So this Sikkim lies in the northern side. We have a Tibet autonomous region. In the western side, we have a Nepal, and eastern we have a Bhutan. So it is surrounded by 3 countries, very small. So in this small state like Sikkim, we have more than 30 dams, and we have 58 pharmaceutical companies, which is built in the river, in the banks of River Tista. So we have a major river called River Tista and Rangit, and these rivers is like very, very important for the indigenous community, because indigenous community, we worship, we pray this, the mountains, the rivers and lakes, and all this, in the nature. So this is very, very important for indigenous community. But like it's been like 17 years that I've been working with this organization, Affected Citizen Tista. So I started very young age, my activism, when I was in first year college. So we in 2007 we had this hunger strike movement. The community from the Zongu area, it's a place which is reserved for indigenous community, which is protected under the Constitution of India. So there, the government has proposed almost 7 hydropower project, mega hydropower project. So with that, threat, so we came out to this capital. We sat hunger strike for 915 days, almost 3 years, so that we could pressure the government and we could scrap 4 hydropower project, which was inside the Kanchenjunga National Park. So now we have a 2 major hydropower project, which is of one is like stage 4 of 520 megawatts, and other one is Panang project, which of 320 megawatts. These 2 projects is directly going to impact the indigenous community, and and this region lies just below the Kanchenjunga National Park, and we have a Kanchenjunga mountain, which is the 3rd highest in the world. So these are the threat that has been witnessing. So and with this work, like what we went to the court, we filed like in the court in layback in 2009 to 2012 against a dam, one of the 1200 megawatts dam, and we unfortunately we lost the case in High Court. And then we across like people were like putting a lot of education that we put these issues only in the indigenous community. So we came out from our region, from our reserve area. So we went across Sikkim and we did this campaigning of free flowing campaign with the help of international rivers. So after that, this like it was coming, and with the help of international rivers, we've been working with the women. So women, we wanted like women voice to be come out. So we are working with the children, school children, we are working with the youth, to make awareness about the impact of this hydropower dams. So with that, not taking much time, I just want to like we've been see like there are series of dams which has been built, and they are very good report which has been submitted by the by the experts, saying that the mega dams coming of this region is not suitable, because it's not feasible, because the area is very fragile and very eco-sensitive. And the Great Himalayas is the youngest of the youngest mountain, and Sikkim lies in the most eastern Himalayas, where eastern Himalayas are the very young mountain, and it's a seismological area. Now and then, in 2011, we had witnessed very massive earthquake, where a lot of people have lost their life and property. So, and recently, and even this, the researcher, like the expert has given the report in 2021 saying that there is a threat of glacier lake outburst. It was submitted to the government, but government did not put a lot of attention. So unfortunately, or fortunate for us, who was fighting against this destructive project, that in 4th of October, we had a massive glacier lake outburst, and the straight 300 megawatts, like 1200 megawatts, the stage 3 dam was completely washed away, and there were a lot of casualties, a lot of property were lost. The most impact was we could witness is where they have constructed the dams. So people have become a landless, they have become a refugee in his own homeland. A lot of people, and unfortunately, these government doesn't have the data of how many people are missing, how many people have died, and to say very very sad to see is like the effort from the state government and central government was very disgusting, because like in the NDRF, the National Disaster Relief people were coming to this 0 point in the after a week, and even the central government are not even, I couldn't read any statement given by the home minister or anything, they just neglected, they didn't bother, because the much devastation that was taking place is like very, very bad. That time I was in Northeast, I was in other state attending Northeast Water Talk. When this happened, I came back. I went directly to the ground zero, where like now I could witness like people are having a lot of this mental traumas, they're having a lot of like, healthcare issues. Their people are drinking, the communities, already. So they have these are the challenges that has been like facing right now in Sikkim, So it's like the ground zero thing is very sad. Still, I don't know, and I just want to share the floor that I think the we should pressure the financial institution like World Bank, IGBT Bank. These are the people who is like funding the this the companies uh, without not having the knowledge about where they are constructing the dams, what are these, because of the dam construction, what are the, who is getting impacted. This phase 3, when we filed litigation in way back in 2009, it was the same company that we have filed a case. They have violated the indigenous community rights. They have violated the Forest Right Act. They have violated the Wildlife Act. They have violated everything. But just like their argument is like, we for development, for for this for revenue purpose, only those things. They don't consider any of this indigenous rights or other points. This is what is happening right now. So even this, like this river Tista is a transboundary rivers. We share this river with India, with Bangladesh and West Bengal in other state, and Bangladesh in the lower region. So I always tell that the Bangladeshi people should also understand what is happening in the upper region. So this is really a very, very like threatening that is happening right now. So we have still we have like more than 500 glacier lake in Sikkim, in our state, which is like melting at very high speed. So these are the concern that has to be I think shared with other people. And very important thing is like our, like we did workshop, and one of the workshop we did this year, and the powerful stories coming from the community, especially the indigenous lecture communities, that our clan stories, the creation stories are based on ecology. And so all these stories are coming for us. Is like ecology is not just a dollar or some money. So it's like we have a spiritual belief that has to be respected, that has to be considered. So this is what I really wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much for bringing us closer to the situation in India. Now we will fly to Iraq. Salman, as an expert on water topics, tell us a bit more about how the situation looks like in Iraq.
Hi again, thank you, Anna. Thank you. I'm really delighted for being here today and sharing the floor with you. So today I want to share with you the situation and how it's look like in Iraq in general. And to talk about Iraq in the beginning and water situation in Iraq, let's go to the history a little bit and the geographic area. So in the history, Iraq has those two ancient rivers in Mesopotamia called Euphrates and Tigris River, and those two, Euphrates and Tigris River, is the main blood stream that's all the communities living beside those two rivers. Those two rivers meaning the life for all Iraqis and most of the people around all the Mesopotamia. And the Mesopotamia is not only Iraq, is the four country, which is the south part of Turkey and east part as well, from west part from Iran, and east part from Syria and Iraq, all of it till the Gulf. So this is how is it like geographically, and you can imagine with all of that, the water coming to Iraq, it's more than 80% of our water coming from our neighbor country, and the rest of it depends on the rain and the snow in a mountain area in Kurdistan region, which is the north part of Iraq. In Iraq, we do not have any agreement with our neighbor country to sharing this water. And in Mesopotamia in general, from 7,000 years ago has been written in one of the tablet from the Babylonian time, how using the water as a weapon from that time. So they still all the community in this area in all Mesopotamia using the water as a weapon, and that's what we are fighting against, and we don't want it, and that's what we want to just control it right now in the area in general. Turkish and Iranian, which is the upstream and the main tributaries and the main springs of those two rivers coming from Turkey and Iran, and they decided in the mid of last century, they decided to build those huge big dams, and with this huge big dams, they call it hydropower dams just to make it more eco-friendly, but in the end it's affecting all the biodiversity, affecting all the water quality, affecting the community, doing migration, affecting all the communities downstream without taking care about the other people. That's how it's moderating the water there. There is no any agreement in all those between those countries how to share this water. So there is only one agreement between Syria and Turkey, and Iraq was with them as well. But this agreement, it doesn't work from 10 years ago, from the Arab Spring till now in Syria. When Arab Spring is starting in Syria, Turkish, they just break it. And from the Iranian side, we don't have any agreement, and there is no even negotiation with them. So you can imagine this 80%, how is moderate in all the area. So Iraq mostly depends on the 20%, and the 20% with the climate change and all the like problems and Iraq, as the UNDP mentioned in their last report, Iraq is the 5th country affected by the climate change in all around the world, and we have been stuck in this stage from 5 years ago till now, and affecting from the climate change in this way, and it's really make a huge a negative impact on all the population and everything. Like last summer in Basra, you can imagine that we, for 2 months, for July and August, Basra is one of the 10th hottest, like the highest temperature and all around the world because of the climate change. So the climate change is affecting everything and affecting the water situation and everything. This is the relationship with our neighbor country and how we get our water. Internally inside Iraq, we have another two challenges, actually. The first one is related to the community themselves and how much they do have aware about how to use water in a good way. They are still using the old-fashioned of irrigation system, which is flooding the area. Still even like the usage of water in all around the world, it's around like 150 liter per day, but in Iraq, at least this is the planning ministry said, it's more than 300 liter per day per person. So that's really huge number, and we need to decrease it as well. And this is from the community level and from the government level. Actually, that's a huge problem that we have it, which is we don't have a clear vision how to moderate and managing the water in Iraq. There is a cities, they do have more water than the others. There is a lot of like overusing projects. There is a lot of illegal projects. There is more than 25,000 illegal projects on those both river basin. Actually, that's how it's going on there in like in with the all water management in Iraq. Regarding to that, it's if we will back to the south area, especially because the most affected area is the south area of Iraq. So we start to see like there is no agricultural area anymore. There is more than one city, they just being out of any farm anymore. One of them is called Diyala. It was one of the very famous city in Iraq. We were exporting orange for all the region around us from this small city. but now the city, they don't have water for themselves. They don't have drinkable water for themselves. If we talk about south, there is no date palm anymore. All the date palms start to be dying because of the pollution, because of the salinity, because of all the affected by water. I want to take you now to one of the most beautiful area in all around the world for me and for all the people, I guess. It's called the Iraqi Marshes. The Iraqi Marshes is in 2016 being part of the World Heritage List. So as a World Heritage List, we need to take care about this, at least with the minimum amount of water. And unfortunately, because there is the minimum amount of water, the last research from the IOM, it said like in March 2022, it said there is more than 3,358 family, which is 20,148 people from 10 provinces. They forced to move. They forced to displace from their city, and it's accurate. All of them from all around 128 location, and all of them from all the marshes, they start to affected. Like there is no enough water for them. There is only polluted water. With this shallow water, they cannot live. Their buffaloes start dying. All this is affecting them, affecting all their life, affecting everything that they want to do. And their life is one of the main part for their life is the water buffalo, and they start losing a lot of water buffalo. Like early last summer, one of them, he just assassinated himself in the middle of the marshes, one of the Arab marshes, just because there is no enough water. So we are reaching the conflict, and we are in the middle of the conflict. So we need to work more on the adaptation. We need to work more how to use the water in a good way. Unfortunately, the Iraqi officials, they still thinking about water just like 1958, which is the flood, when Iraq get a flood. But Iraq, there is no enough water even to fill our dams. So there is no need to building more dams. What we need right now is to moderate our water in a better way, to work more on the alternative, which is one of them is the water harvesting, rainwater harvesting, I guess, is the main thing that we need to go through for the next step. That's what I have, and I'm open for any question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Salman, for sharing the perspective from Iraq. I would like to use this moment to make a little promotion. The topic of Iraq and water, we also, as MRG, included in our this year's report on water. There is a chapter of Iraq. You can all find it on our website. I would like to remind everybody that we are open for questions. It goes also to the speakers. Dear speakers, if you are curious about each other, please feel free to include your questions. Now we will go to Somalia, and I will give floor to Claire. But before giving floor to Claire, we would like to share with you video recorded by our colleague and partner in Somalia. We were a bit afraid that the internet connection will be not strong enough to have him here between us, but still we would like to have him and his voice and perspective here. So before Claire, I will share my screen and give voice to Mohammed. Here we go. Let me know if you don't see what I will be sharing.
Good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good afternoon to those of you who live in other parts of the world where it's afternoon. Thanks to my colleagues who have arranged this meeting, I would like to say a few things about water and the way these days water has affected Somalia. For over 3 decades now, Somalia has been suffering from various types of disasters. some natural, others man-made. For the past few weeks, the country has been overwhelmingly battered by floods resulting from the El Nino rains that hampered several parts of the world. Large communities of internally displaced persons in camps around urban towns and cities, as well as a large number of the host communities, have taken the brunt of the El Nino rains. While the impact has been seen in every region of the country, towns including Beledweyne in Hirshabelle State and also Baidoa City or Baidoa District in Southwest State are assumed to be the hardest hit. Of course, the minorities in the country are among the most devastated of the victims, since they make the highest number of population living in the different camps hosting the IDPs. In Mogadishu, neighbors and relatives were helping each other to accommodate those whose houses were damaged or washed away by the floods, as the El Nino torrential rains are expected even to continue for some time. Statistical figures indicate that the floods have affected nearly 1.6 up to 1.7 million people, of whom the minorities constitute the biggest proportion. Women and children are the most affected, considering the fact that they represented the largest population cluster in the IDPs. Out of the rural inhabitants overwhelmed by the floods are the agricultural minorities, whose livelihoods have suffered considerable production damage because of the problem the floods have caused to the soil. Apart from anecdotal assessments and figures, aid agencies have not come up with accurate figures due to the fact that emergency is still continuing while the numbers keep rising and reports from affected areas are not reaching the toll stations, in a timely manner. Some of the cited problems of the rains and the ensuing floods include: 1, inability of pregnant women to access health centers for safe delivery; 2, unavailability of traditional birth attendants due to impassable roads; 3, several children were washed away in the floods and died. Others were submerged in the water inside the house before mothers woke up or realized the nature of the devastation. 4, hundreds of thousands of IDPs' makeshift houses were washed away in the floods and are now second-time homeless, because they were already homeless caused by problems they had in their original areas of habitation or habitants, and then this second flooding and whatever has caused them to be homeless for the second time. Finally, Somali people, minorities in particular, have many stories to tell about water. And one is that water is life, and without it, survival is impossible, because lack of water or shortage of it means drought and famine. Negative result is Somali people know well about. The other one is that excessive water that causes floods is destructive to lives and livelihoods, as we have seen in the recent El Nino and floods. But even so, for an enduring period of time, Somalis are trying to come to terms with dual effects of water, which are both damaging to life. In a way, lack of water, we know the problem, drought and famine, and as a cause of massive flood also. So these two are scenarios which the Somali people are negotiating through, especially minorities that have had a really very terrible time in both lack of water and excess of water. This is the end of my presentation, and I thank you very much for your time.
And we thank him for his time and readiness to record video, even if not outside, but inside. Claire, as a co-director of Minority Rights Group International, could you give us maybe also a bit of a wider perspective on this?
Yes, Anna, I mean, it's just been tragic. The Somali people suffered this extended famine. Normally, they would expect 2 rainy seasons a year. And then for 3 years, they pretty much had no rain. And that meant that when we researched a piece for the the report that you mentioned just a little while ago, we focused on that drought situation and the access to water and clean water in particular, and wash services to the IDPs. And that was a kind of slow burn emergency. It kind of grew over a number of years, and in a way that allowed time for the international community to respond. But still, the result of that was that 43,000 people died as a result of that famine who would not have died if the climate impacts, including the drought, had not hit Somalia. And then just a few months later, we see this situation. Somalia does see floods from time to time, but typically these are along the riverine valleys. So there are valleys of big rivers where the rain runs down from the Ethiopian highlands that normally get high levels of rain most years. And those rivers can flood. The floods are quite predictable. The river levels rise in Ethiopia, and then the Somalis are told about this high level of water which is coming their way. But this time we've seen floods that are not on the riverbanks. We've seen floods in places that have not flooded in recent living memory. So we've seen latrines washed out, we've seen clinics damaged, we've seen all of the things that the UN had tried to do to make life safe for IDPs who had moved because of the lack of water and the lack of food. So the solar lights have been washed away. All of those investments have been destroyed in this event. And of course, the ultimate tragedy is that this is a result of climate change, to which the Somali people have made such a minimal contribution, but they really are bearing the brunt in a most terrible way currently for what the world is experiencing. So I think it's a salutary lesson for us all to think about how we organize humanitarian relief and our responsibility, our moral responsibility to these individuals who have not caused this problem but are being impacted by it. And just one last thing to say is that MRG has been doing research about minorities in Somalia. And of course, this is impacted on many different groups in Somalia, but our evidence shows that minorities are the last in the queue when help is available, and they are discriminated against in access to humanitarian relief. So it's something that we all need to guard against, particularly to make sure that there is equality and equity in the humanitarian efforts as a result of climate change in Somalia, but also globally.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Claire. We will get into recommendations at the end of our meeting. Last but not least, Josh Clem, international rivers, dams, situation with dams. I give the floor to you now.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to have the chance to speak with you all today. I think especially right now with COP28 about to start in a couple of days in Dubai, and this is, an important time for us to have a bit of a reality check about, water management, about dams, about how that fits into a warming world, because we're very much in the midst of a climate crisis, and we have to think about what are the solutions to actually addressing that, and what is actually going to hold us back. The question of Somalia, I think, is maybe a case in point, where Somalia is located downstream on some rivers from Ethiopia. Ethiopia has been building a number of dams in its highlands that is, really jeopardizing the food security and food production of Somalia and other countries that are located downstream. Obviously you have the case of Egypt that has raise concerns about the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam that Ethiopia is building in its highlands. So I think especially in an era of climate change, we're going to be seeing more and more this question of water resources, climate change, and how countries react to that. Obviously Salman was speaking about the case of Turkey, which essentially holds most of the water that typically would be flowing into Iraq, but most of those waters are controlled or prevented from flowing. So yeah, I think really this is quite a timely topic. As we look to COP28, where we see that the hydropower industry is really going to be out in full force, as they often are, and trying to talk about hydropower and dams as a solution to climate change. And I think that's really not the case. And it's important for people, delegates attending COP to understand really the fundamental flaws that hydropower and dams face in an era of climate change. It's maybe not strictly within the topic for today, but it is worth mentioning that methane, large amounts of methane are emitted because of dam reservoirs. Between 1% and 2% of all GHGs, the GHG footprint worldwide comes from the methane released from dams. As you may know, this methane is produced by rotting vegetation in the reservoirs that gets released as methane. And so, as we're talking about, solutions to address the energy crisis and climate change, when you're building new dams, you're effectively putting in, quite a bit of methane, which, as you probably know, is one of the most potent greenhouse gases, and especially over the near term. So building new dams is actually adding quite a bit more GHGs to the atmosphere. And so that's important to recognize. Beyond that, as we look at the impacts of climate change on dams, which I think is really the biggest Achilles heel for the hydropower sector, for dams, already we're experiencing more extreme weather around the world, and that's only likely to get worse. I think we are all heard about and saw with shock the tragic events that took place in Libya earlier this year, where two dams, it was discussed as a flooding event, but it was effectively two dams that collapsed and unleashed a torrent of water on the city of Derna, and over 5,000 people were killed as a result. And this was, unfortunately, a preventable disaster. The maintenance efforts had not been done in quite some time. It was a neglect. These dams had been neglected, but it's also an issue of climate change where, because of the El Nino conditions, because of the storms, that were quite a bit more severe than they had been previously, the dams really stood no chance. And, this is the largest dam disaster in living memory. And unfortunately, we're unlikely, to have seen the last of it. There have already been a number of near misses elsewhere in the world, even in the US, where dams have had their structures damaged, and we're seeing people having to being displaced. Mayal mentioned the dam in Northeast India that basically washed away in about 10 minutes because a glacial outburst lake burst. And within minutes, a $1 billion brand new dam had washed away. So this is unfortunately the new reality that we're living in. And unfortunately, many of the dams that had been built, really during the heyday of construction some 50 years ago. Many of those dams, in their tens of thousands, have reached their natural lifespan, and most of them are actually not functional. They're not really serving any actual purpose, but they have to be, they have to be repaired. They have to be maintained, and that's costing, in some cases, tens of millions, even hundreds of millions of dollars, to actually rebuild these dams just to keep them running and to keep them intact. So that's going to be, a major challenge that's only going to get more severe going forward. But one of the actual exciting things that we're starting to see, and there's very exciting news coming out of California and Oregon, where on the Klamath River, they've actually started to remove dams in what will be the largest dam removal project in history. And this was very much the result of indigenous communities who have fought for decades to get these projects removed, and it's finally happening. And obviously there have been dam removal projects elsewhere in the world, mostly taking place in Europe and in the US, but they've largely been, fairly modest-sized dams that are being removed. The Klamath will be by far the largest such removal in history, and I think will begin to offer a lot of lessons about how to do that on such large projects. And I think it's really hopefully the beginning and starting maybe a tipping point for actually starting to remove more dams than we're actually putting in, because I think that's the trajectory that we're on now. In the face of climate change, we need free-flowing rivers that can sustain communities and that are helping to with the resilience of communities, especially indigenous peoples who rely on free-flowing rivers, who rely on the sediments that rivers offer, on the fish and the biodiversity that is sustained by free-flowing rivers. So this is something that I think we're at the very beginning of. Maybe the last thing that I'll talk about is just about droughts. Really, we talked about the floods and how that can impact dams under climate change. Droughts is the obvious kind of counterpoint to that, where hydropower is very much reliant on water resources, on rivers to run. And we've already seen in the last few years, from Brazil to the US to China to Southern Africa, that drought has effectively crippled hydropower production and has really kind of laid bare just how vulnerable our energy systems are when they're reliant on hydropower. So that's also, as we look at extremes, we're going to be seeing much more of that. And so I think it's really a wake-up call for decision makers going to COP, to realize that under a changing climate, hydropower just doesn't really fit. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Josh. Very, very interesting, very informative. Questions start to come. So I will try to juggle them a little bit. The first one coming to Mayalmeet. What are some of the ways that the campaign is applying pressure on the World Bank for its financial support of dams?
Right now, we haven't put pressure on that level. We couldn't meet this World Bank. But what is I've been working with this International Accountability Project as a global advocacy team. So I'm the member for 2022 to 2023, where this advocacy, the International Accountability Project, is they give us training. We need to do a lot of research on our own community. as I said that in my community, a lot of the research has been done by the outsider, like the Europeans, the Indians, and by the Americans. Okay, hardly the indigenous community has done research on their own community. So it's a very high time that the indigenous community should, like me, I have started since last year, started working with my own community. So I'm getting a lot of powerful, the stories which is coming out. And I think it's very, very important for the indigenous community to share with the outside world our perspective, because, as like I forgot to mention in earlier statement that we are one of the tributaries of River Tista. We have a river Rongyong, and this river Rongyong is very, very sacred for the Lepcha indigenous community, because the Lepcha community we don't believe in heaven and hell. What we believe is like after we die, our soul travel back to the Pumzu Lang, which is called soul resting place, which is, we believe it is at the foothills of Mount Kanchenjunga. So that is like spiritually more sacred, and it makes very strong. I think that's the reason that is like made our community very strong, doing resistance against this dams coming up in the region. So these things has to be, it should not be kept within the community. It is very important that we have to reach this, our stories, our beliefs, our culture to the outside world, especially the financing, the financial institution. So with this small project that I am included, I'm also part of that. I think with after getting this, I think these international accountability project will have this draft done, or whatever the studies, whatever the inputs coming from our community, that will be reaching to this World Bank. I think that has to be needed, because uh, when this EI and EMP, when they do studies, I think they don't take this into consideration. And even if it's have taken also, this the company will not take us as a consideration. So it is very important that we work independently and get all these stories and reach to this financial institution. Apart from this, the dam which got washed away, it was washed away, it was a failed project. Even for this, like what we wanted to share with the financial institution is that in way back when this when they started this in 2005, the estimated cost of this project was 5,000 crore. Okay, by the time when it reached commissioned in 2017, the cost of the project went above 14,000 crore. That means like even financially it is not feasible. So it is very important for the financial institution to see that investing in such companies, especially hydro dams in the Great Himalayan belt, like from Kashmir to Himachal to Uttarakhand to Nepal to this Arunachal Pradesh, these areas are very fragile and very sensitive. So it is very high time that we need to reach this. We need to get this information to be reach out to this financial institution. I think financial institutions should stop funding this types of companies. So that is what I really wanted to share.
Thank you. And thank you for mentioning also how important it is to have the indigenous knowledge included in the solutions. When you were speaking before, you also mentioned the effect on the mental health of your community. Can I still follow up on this one? Could you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, because like since this the project when this project is like going to come to our region, it is not just because of the devastation that just happened. It was there in our community because it's been a very long the journey, that the struggle that we had. So the youngsters who are supposed to focus on their career and their studies, because of the government plan of bringing up this, proposing this dam coming up to a region, has really affected our youth, especially. And some of the youth goes to that extent also, like they wanted to pick up arms and revolt against the government. These type of problem are happening. So how long it going to happen, we don't know. But like being like we just like young indigenous leaders, so we are trying to tell to the youngsters that I think we need to negotiate, we need to be very patient about this. We have other ways instead of taking arms. So these are the things that is happening within the community. But apart from this, like recent devastation that has happened in our region, that's like, they lost everything in few minutes. That is like they were the indigenous, they are the landlords, they have lost a lot of lands, and they've lost a lot of properties. And the students, the small kids, they have lost their whole school, got washed away. So even the small kids are making videos and spreading that dam should not be built here. How much impact that psychology that have been done to the small children, that has to also be like, it's quite concerning, So it's like people are like indigenous people, they drink, it's like their way of life. But I can see when I was there in the most affected area for 18 days doing this relief distribution and all, I could see they are drinking a lot, so they couldn't, because what I felt is like they are feeling guilty, saying that it was like they are blaming themselves, that if we haven't given our land for this companies, this could not happen. It was we that, because of our stupidity, because the ACT had been raising the issues, but we did not listen. We just looked to the we were just looking to the greed and the money, that has just happened. That guilt is there. And the indigenous, especially the men, they don't want to express, they don't want to tell whatever the bad decision, the wrong decision that I have taken. So I was talking to them and I said, this is not your fault. It is a fault of the government, and the companies who was bringing this policy and forcefully, they were, when they initially started this project, was forcefully they were, distributing the this what you call the money. They were like doing like, you got rich, you'll get development, you'll be you'll be contributing to the national revenue. All this was put onto our like innocent people. So I will not blame our community, but I'll blame the the policymakers, the government. They did not just take our like indigenous rights, and these are the thing that mental health problem has really impacted. So this is a concern that I wanted to share with every like in this group.
Thank you very much. I see next question coming, Salman, to you. Could you please share more on how water harvesting can have a significant and positive impact on the water crisis in Iraq?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's really, I didn't mention a lot in the beginning about it, and about especially like it's not only rainwater harvesting. That's what I mentioned, because we as a steering committee member in the Save the Tigris foundation, which is a foundation based in the Netherlands. We are part of it. We work with them on a report, and the report is about rainwater harvesting in northeast Syria, and now we want to reflect this work as well for Iraq. And how is it important for us? It's really important because all the signs are significant till now. It's really giving us a positivity that we can finding a good solution with this alternative rainwater harvesting. Especially there is a lot of countries, they do have almost the same weather with the same rain amount, and they could survive, and they have more green area, more than what we have in Iraq. In Iraq, like last year, there is rain with around like 1,000 of a cubic meter, or even million of a cubic meter, going directly to the sea without moderated in a good way. Why? Because it's the rain, it was for the south part, and in the south part it's very horizontal, it's flat. So we need the water harvesting for this area to collecting the rain and use it for either to supporting the Iraqi marshes. The marshes in the south part, we can support it from this rainwater harvesting, and we can support as well. We can recharge our groundwater, and we can recharge our river, and we can use it for the agricultural land as well. So it's really important, because if the rain coming for the north part, yeah, we can reservoir it and restore it in our dams. But any rain coming behind in the middle of south part of Iraq, that's mean there is no storage for that, and the only alternative in our vision is the rainwater harvesting. And with this new technology and a new method, we can survive as a part of the adaptation. That's what we think.
Thank you, Salman. Claire, Josh, do you have anything to add to those 2 points? No, just checking.
No, thanks. I did have a question though for Mayal, if
absolutely, please.
I mean, there is, I think, a big question about, South Asia in particular. The Himalayan region is especially prone to these GLOFs, the glacial lake outburst floods, that impacted, that washed away the dam. I mean, there was a couple of years ago another such example in another part of the country where a dam was damaged. So this is only likely to increase with climate change as the glaciers are melting. I mean, does the government have a plan to address that? Whether to at least stop some of its dam building, or to at least put in some sort of safety provisions, because I think we're likely to see this more and more.
What happened on 4th of October in Sikkim was like we could have saved a lot of people's life, because in the higher altitude we have armies and we have ITBT army, which they have informed the project developers, the Tista Urja, the companies, that the level of water is increasing in very, very abnormal rate, But this companies was like taken, like they take it very lightly. So, but when I was talking to, when I was there in the ground zero, I was asking question to the employees there in the project. They were saying that, it takes 1 hour to open the gate, because hydrological, I'm not good in all this technology. Like, it'll take 1 hour to open the gate. There are four gates, which like already we had like 1,000 cubic tons of water, which was already accumulated in the dam. And the more the water was flowing from this glacier outburst, so that has really made the damage, But I was saying that if they have an early warning system with the companies, we could have really saved the property and life of the people. But and these they did not follow this early warning system. That was the number one. Number two, when the ITPT have already warned the thing, that we could have saved the people from the low downstream, they were like, they took it very, very lightly. So, and our chief minister saying that, first he gives a statement that he got a information around 10:40 a.m. PM in the evening, night. And again, second states, he states that and people are saying, if you got the information by 10:30, why did you inform? Because lower portion, the effect was at 2 p.m. So why did you not inform the public in the time? So that was a lot of people. Again, he's coming to the media and saying that no, it was not 10. I did not say 10:40. I said it was 11 at 12 or 1 o'clock. These are the carelessness of the authority. That has really lost the life of the innocent people. And the problem with Sikkim is like, it's only I probably not I like directly want to say that people are they are not bothered about this, about climate change and global warming. They are like, only the indigenous community are concerned, just because like we worship nature. I think that was the concerning part. And I think like in Sikkim, like and when we were like protesting and all, we've been jailed, we've been victimized, and we had to leave our regular studies and to join this movement and to save all these rivers. But these people, none of the community, like very few they came, but most of the community from the downstream, they never supported our movement. Till they haven't supported. And now right now they're saying like, even they're not putting pressures to the government. And few of our intellectual educated lot giving a statement saying that the damage have been they would have been more damage if there was no if there was no dams. They are not even accepting that the damage has been done because of these dams. And in Sikkim, like we have the number, like we are almost 500 glaciers, like, which is like ticking bombs. Still we have like glaciers, like very large glaciers, like, and this belt is like seismological area. And anytime it's like, I told in my previous, like in the statement, saying this is just like just a beginning. If you don't take it seriously, and if we continuing building a series of dam in this fragile ecology, we are going to have more of this devastation in near future. So that's very concerning. And problem is like, after the devastation also, like the innocent people are the sufferers, so that is like very, very, very sad part, and like very, like we are just in minority, we are very less. That is the where, like, like that's what I really want to appeal to the indigenous community across the globe. You support, because we are like we are in like very minority. Like it's like very difficult to fight with the government and fight with the corporates like NSBC. Like is they are very powerful, so that's the very challenging that we are facing right now. But like right now in our region, like just below that, whatever this stage 3 got washed away, just below the region, that's its Zongo, where it's like it's a reserve indigenous community. So there is like we haven't allowed the government to initiate any of the project. So there is like only 2 major bridge which connects the Zongo with other outside region that got washed away. Otherwise, there were no casualties, there were no property lost. Only wherever they built that they have built a dam, they are the major like damage has been done in those areas. So these are the impact that I have seen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's the last moment to ask a question, if anybody has any out there in our virtual audience. But if not, it's also fine. This year's COP28 will take place only in 2 days from now. COP is the meeting between the governments who promised to act on climate change. And since the last year's COP27, the world has seen worsening heat waves, floods, and droughts, and Libya and Somalia are just between many of those tragic situations. I have the very last question to all of you, to each of you. If you have a chance to say a few words, few sentences to those 70,000 people meeting in Dubai in 2 days, what would you tell them? And well, let's start with Mayalmeet.
I think if the world is really concerned about climate change and global warming, it has like they had to really be serious. Like just in the conference, in the Congress, if they just talk about, and in the practical, in the ground level, if they don't listen to the indigenous community voice, I think there's no solution, there's no mitigations. Mitigations, I could proudly say it is with the indigenous community. And like when the world talk about protections and preservations of the environment, I can say across the globe, the indigenous community worship the natures. That's the mitigation that I really wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Salman, what would you say?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I just want to mention we as Humad Dijla, we just put a statement. We boycott COP this year because of the bad situation in all Middle East right now with all this the genocide and what's going on in Gaza and in Palestine in general. And we asking to think about the human justice in parallel with the climate justice. That's really important to think about it, like thinking about human justice in the beginning before to think about climate justice only. And as mentioned already, thinking about climate justice always don't take care about smart cities. So smart cities always didn't think about the native communities, like talking about smart cities in the south part of Iraq without taking care about Arab marshes. That's something you will fail in the end. So thinking with the very practical alternative that we can finding a solution for this world in a boiling century that we have it right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Salman. Claire, what would you tell them?
Well, I agree with Mayalmeet about everyone being a bit more serious, but I'm not sure they would listen to that. I have a very practical suggestion, which is that I believe that at COPs there are at least as many business interests there, and in fact more business interests there than there are states or NGOs or indigenous peoples. And I would ask COP to limit. I mean, businesses will always find money to send people to events like COP and for them it's an investment about how they can make money in the future. And frankly, some of the decisions around short-termism, the way that money has been invested, the way that we have put profit before the planet is why we're in the problems that we're in now. So I would say to the organizers of COP, limit the number of business people who are there. Yeah, for every one business person, there should be one NGO, there should be a human rights activist, there should be a climate activist. And the other thing I would just say is take loss and damage really seriously. I mean, just thinking about the Somalia situation, we're seeing very, very concrete losses and damages from climate change here and now today. And we do need to take the moral and financial responsibility to address those situations now. We can't wait.
Thank you, Claire. Josh, what about you?
Yeah, well, I think kind of in keeping with my presentation, really the point that hydropower and climate change are not compatible. So as delegates get together and figure out, what they can fund, that is, what scarce climate dollars are used for as actual solutions to get us out of the climate crisis, they can't incentivize hydropower and dams by using those scarce climate dollars. So hydropower is unfortunately a false solution and needs to be treated as such.
Thank you very much. Thank you all the speakers. I see in the question and answer chat somebody is very proud of you, Salman. I will read it loud. We are all very happy to have you all with us to get very different perspectives. This was the second webinar of International Rivers and Minority Rights Group webinars. Tomorrow it will be online, shared by both of our organizations. If you think somebody should watch it, please share it with them. The third webinar of this series will take place in the middle of January, this time with the focus on pollution. Put it into your calendars. We will announce it very, very soon. Thank you very much once again for being with us here, for being interested in this not very attractive, but very, very important topic nowadays. Thank you.